We are quite privileged tonight to have such a prestigious and famous economic and financial advisor as Mr. Ziad Abdelnour.
I'm not going to bore you with a speech. I don't have a speech. I don't do speeches. Based on the audience, I try to respond. I'd like to focus more on Q&A because I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions, and it makes it much more interactive. Well, we are in real trouble. By the way, in the book, I don't mince any words. I'm not running for office. I'm not a Republican or Democrat. I'm a concerned American citizen. I'm a capitalist who seeks wealth creation, who seeks to empower people to have very successful lives. The key to success is empowering people. In my 25, 30 years experience in the business on Wall Street, I realized this is the ultimate key. The more people you empower, the more successful you're going to be. This is my mandate. So as I was saying before, we're in deep trouble. $16 trillion in debt. Lots of people unemployed. Our role in the world is receding as a superpower. Problems soon in the Middle East. How do you survive? How do you thrive? How do you make money? This is the question. Everybody talks today about job creation. It has nothing to do with job creation. All the president, the candidates. The government job, number one, is not to create jobs. This is the role of the private sector. The government job is to create an environment that's conducive to wealth creation. You create an environment that's conducive to wealth creation, jobs will come along. Your job, Mr. Government, is to create more millionaires and billionaires. Today, there is 5 million plus millionaires in America, out of a population of around 310 million people. I would like to see a candidate saying, my mandate over the next 4 to 8 years is to create 20 million millionaires. Think about it. If a president or a candidate says, my only mandate is to do that, this will change. This is a game changer by itself. They're bickering over contraceptive pills and some totally irrelevant stuff to the future of this country. They're not dealing with the debt. They're not dealing with the taxes. They're not dealing with wealth creation. They're not dealing with the core issues. Anyway, I'm not running for office. I'm not an idealist. I'm a capitalist, a hardcore capitalist. This book will tell you exactly what happened since 2008. In intimate detail, I go after specific names. As a matter of fact, I mention, the book talks about the 9 most powerful financiers in America. And I go after all of them, dissecting exactly what happened, how they did it, and recommending how to outsmart them all. The best revenge you can have as citizens of this country is to make obscene wealth and to piss them off. That's the best revenge. Not bitching, not feeling, victims or anything like that. That's the best revenge. And this is what this book is all about. How do you make obscene wealth given what happened? When I talk about this, people tell me, you know what? Today is the age of wealth bashing. You cannot talk about these things. You cannot talk about empowerment, wealth creation, capitalism. These are bad words. Today, unfortunately, is the age of diminished expectations. Kids graduate from college, and all what they aspire to, they have a job. They're happy to have a job. And they're happy to have a roof. What kind of generation are we raising? Is this what we want? Look at the guys who created and built this nation. The Rockefellers, the Morgan, the Carnegie, robber barons, bigger than life. They went for building, wanting to build dynasties, wealth, shaking the establishment, rocking the boat. Look at Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, etc. This is the kind of kids we want to raise. So there's nothing wrong in wealth creation and everything wrong in wealth bashing. Get it in your system. All what the government tells you, you know what, today there's a lot of touchy-feely. You cannot say something because you're going to offend this guy or that guy. You cannot talk about wealth creation. You have to be realistic. You have to be a nice boy who's going to roll over and listen to us. No. Number one, you're going to have to change your attitude. You're really going to have to rebel against this. How do you rebel? By educating yourself and by gathering intelligence. Business for me is war. For a lot of people, business is a hobby. No. Business is war. How do you win wars? Not by the size of your balance sheet or how smart you are, but one thing really is how you gather intelligence. If you know how to gather intelligence and do your due diligence, you're going to always be a winner. Look at what we as the United States did in Iraq. We went in Iraq, spent $1 trillion, lost 5,000 lives because we did not have the right intel. We acted based on misinformation, the wrong intel. The results, disastrous. The same thing happens in the business world. People do more due diligence buying a car than giving $30 million to Madoff. And then they come crying. And then the government has to come and bail them out. I do not believe in bailouts. Bailouts only benefit the rich and the super rich. Today, the banks have become bigger. The power has become more limited, more in fewer hands. The middle class didn't benefit at all. Look, TARP was not $770 billion, for your information, if you want the right intel, was over $7 trillion. The banks took the money at a very low interest rate, invested at a higher spread, made $15 billion in no time. The execs, the top execs, they took all the money. They did not lend to companies out there. They became richer, and the circus goes on. More power to the banks, more power to the execs, and the public is totally oblivious. They like their shows on TV, their dance and song shows, and nobody asks the question. Now, regarding Occupy Wall Street. Occupy Wall Street goes there. It's a movement, but they don't have a message. Their message is fuzzy. When you don't have a message, when you did not gather the intel, you have no credibility. I really hope this book will be the message for the Tea Party, for Occupy Wall Street, for every single think tank from Austrian Economics to Atlas Society to everybody to use going on. This book is a weapon, is a nuclear bomb out there. I'm telling you, once you read the names, I go after Ben Bernanke, Hank Paulson, Timothy Geithner, George Soros, Lord Blankfen, Larry Summers, Christopher Dodd, and Bonnie Frank. Any executives who would have, anybody on Wall Street who would have said what I said in the book would be fired from his job the next day. I really wanted to go under their skin and show the world that these guys are really not as smart as you think they are. Let me tell you something. When Goldman Sachs gets bailed out with $5 billion from Warren Buffett, they're not that smart. If they were that smart, they wouldn't be bailed out. So all this aura and mystique about Goldman Sachs being amazing individuals, no, they're not. Same thing for AIG, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch. Hey, this is the reality. Nobody dares saying this because this is the establishment. Who are you to wage war against the establishment? Well, you know what? If all of us start getting the intel and getting ourselves, more knowledgeable, we would make a difference. Let me tell you what my plan is, I intend to do. Why I'm doing all this. What triggered the whole thing. What triggered the whole thing is that I'm a warrior. I don't like to bully anyone, but when I am bullied, I react ferociously. The 2008 crisis was orchestrated by a bunch of thugs still running this country, still in power, totally unaccountable, who think they're above the law, and who are bullying all of us. This is unacceptable. And the head of the snake is the Federal Reserve. The head of the snake is the Federal Reserve. The dollar has devaluated 94% in the last 100 years. The Fed is totally unaccountable. The power is unlimited. They don't care what any one of the presidents says or does. They make presidents, they break presidents, they set interest rates, they issue the money, they bail out banks, states, governments, countries, anyone, and nobody's saying anything. This is totally acceptable. The Fed has to be audited at least, totally audited. And you know what? People tell me, what do you think about Obama or Romney? It doesn't matter. This is all for consumption, for you to have some fun. The power structure is the Fed. This is what matters. Whoever becomes president is not going to make any difference, whether Obama or Romney. Slight differences. Why? Because the same backers of Obama are the backers of Romney. Romney is backed by Goldman Sachs and the bailout banks. Obama, the same thing. This guy has a Democrat label, this guy has a Republican label. And Romney is not even a conservative. And Rand Tricks and Tom is not going to make much of a difference. So at the end of the day, we're going after the wrong thing. The Fed. This is the problem. Everything is about money and oil and commodities. The Fed is the power to be. If we do not rein in the Fed, these problems are only going to accentuate. $16 trillion in debt, all from the Fed. In 1995, I had a very good friend of mine who now recently died. Not recently, a few years ago. And this guy was JFK Jr. In 1995 was the inauguration of George magazine. And he said something that was very smart. I was there. They asked him, why George magazine? I mean, you are a Kennedy. You're aristocracy on the political side. Why are you now going into media and starting George magazine? He said something which I found very interesting. He said, because I want the public in America to be knowledgeable and informed about the political process and about the politics at large as much as they are in sports. That, I think, was very smart remark. My job is to make you all and all the public to be the worst nightmare for the liberal establishment, their worst nightmare, and to make every American knowledgeable about geopolitics, geoeconomy, what's really happening out there. I'm not the Suze Orman who's going to tell you how much to invest in the IRA or stocks and bonds. No, that's fine. She has a role, but it's not my role. And she does her job very well, by the way. It's not my role. The American public has to wake up and be aware what our leaders in Washington, D.C., on Wall Street are doing, and be armed with that intelligence so that when they have an argument with them, they don't protest on the streets or sleep on the streets, but they have an argument in the boardrooms, in Congress, through the think tanks, through op-eds, in the media, as what's happening. I want to create zillions of Ziads out there, and it's our role to do that. It's very important if we're going to regain this country. You had the founding fathers, we are the defending fathers. Defenders of the Constitution and defenders on what's right. I'm not doing that because I like this group or that group, but because it's fair. Wealth creators, we should have more wealth creators, not wealth bashers. If you overtax them and harass them, they're going to leave. They don't need to stay in the US. Those who have millions and billions of dollars, they say, bye-bye, Obama. Have a nice day. I don't need you. You work for me. I don't work for you. So all this stuff, the wealth bashing now on TV, oh, these guys are capitalists, they don't feed with the poor. Well, you know what? Wake up and learn how to start fishing. Nobody's going to give you the fish. And anyway, this manufacturing sector is going to change. We're never going to come back again like we used to be. Never, ever. It's not. I mean, Steve Jobs said this. We're not going to regain the manufacturing sector anymore. So we're going to have to really wake up. Regarding creating the wealth, well, I'll tell you. 5 years ago, the safest investment was to invest in US Treasuries. The most important in the commodities business. Today, it's the world upside down. US Treasuries is the riskiest investment, and gold and oil and commodities is the safest investment. So as much as now you can buy all futures and gold stocks, etc., that's how you're going to make money. There's only going to be more problems going on, most probably a war in the Middle East, although there shouldn't be a war, but because of the arrogance and incompetence of our Wall Street, of our DC establishment, we're going to have a war. And you know what? And if you want to go after the Iranian regime, I've been saying it to the press for a long time, get a team from Special Ops, Navy Team 6, and go and finish them. I asked this question to Elliot Abrams in Washington, D.C. I told him, why don't we do that? He said, you know, it's not in the policy of the United States to go and kill some people like this. Yes, it's in your policy to go and bomb millions of people, create billions of dollars of damages, spend trillions of dollars on wars, but you cannot do that. War has to become surgical. We have to become much more fiscally responsible. The way you invest your money, the way you look at the world has to be very different. The US is not and will never be like it used to be. I'm not saying it's going to regain, no. You have to realize it's never going to be like it used to be. Never. And if it does, fine, but it's never going to happen. But you have to position yourself accordingly. And no one cares about you or thinks about what you do. Not the government, not anyone. So you're going to have to really develop, as I said earlier, and gather this intel as to how do I operate, how do I make money, how do I create wealth in today's day and age. And again, the best revenge is to make obscene money and to piss off the liberal establishment. Thank you.